Hey, this is Derek with the Make It Fun Island podcast. I'm here with Marcel Patillo, also known by the artist name I Am Able. Welcome to the show, Marcel.
Thank you, Derek. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, in fact, for those of you who don't know, Marcel goes way back kind of in Christian music history because he comes from an incredible family. His dad, as far as I know, Marcel was the
Yeah.
very first like black CCM contemporary Christian music artist
Oh, man.
who really hit the charts like back in the 80s. Um, and then your mom has been president of the Gospel Music Association for many years. And then, of course, your legendary brother, Gabe, who had toured with Toby Mac since he was, 15 or something like that?
He started with DC Talk when he was 10 on the
Okay.
road.
Okay. Yeah.
Isn't that
So,
wild?
and I have one of the few recorded long form interviews with your brother on
Yes.
YouTube.
I love that, man. I
So
love that.
it's a great honor for me to talk to you because I kind of feel like now I just got to talk to your mom and your dad and we can get the whole family.
Oh my
Right.
gosh, that'll be cool. And honestly, my
Yeah.
mom would probably love to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, so it's an honor to meet you, Marcel. So you are continuing the family legacy of bringing music forward that's relevant. And so tell us a little bit about kind of what you're doing now. Um, Maybe how your recent passing of Gabe, your brother, has maybe influenced you and
Mhm.
inspired you in that journey. So
Yeah.
let me just get the quick flyby, and then we can dive into other topics as well.
Yeah. Right now I am able is my main passion. And I feel like the course that God has me on. And it kind of started as a way to show people the world and the war that we live, that the world is sitting in between. For some of us, I say that life feels more like a ride, and for some of us, it feels more like a war. And early
Mhm.
on in my life, we all go through hard times. And some of the harder things I went through, I almost feel like it prompted me to have an optimistic spirit. Like, you know what? It's fine. You can rise above this. But over time, it gets tiring, and you start to really feel the war that humans live within. And
Mhm.
obviously, with my brother passing, that was a huge blow. Him only being in his early 40s, he's got 3 kids that are all under
Mhm.
the age of 14. He had so much going for him at the time too. It felt like God was doing so much in his life. So to see God let him go, or to see God take him,
Mhm.
was definitely, it was tough, man. And it was a
Mhm.
huge blow to my spirit. And the only thing I really knew to do in that time was look to God. Once you come to that realization that God is real, once you have that, once your brain wraps around that truth and accepts it as truth, when things like that happen, all you can really do is look to God and say, well, what's going on? Like, I feel
Uh-huh.
betrayed. I feel hurt. I feel
Uh-huh.
kind of tricked by you,
Yeah.
God. I know you're real. I know what happens if I turn away, and that
Mhm.
can't really be an option, because I don't want my
Yeah.
life to go down that path. So
Yeah.
I'm looking to you in for answers in why the pain has to be the way it is, why the situations have to
Mhm.
turn out the way they are. And I am able, kind of came as just my way to self-express and say, you know what? I'm going to keep asking these questions, and I'm going to keep fighting for connection with God,
Mhm.
through this music.
Mhm. So now, how has that affected some of the songs that you're writing right now? Like, I know obviously great artists will have like album concepts. We've kind of gotten away from that in the singles era, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I kind of get the sense from your artwork and some of the things that you're saying, like you have a concept of the album and probably some of these themes in the individual songs touch on
Yeah.
something. So tell us the concept.
Yeah, man. The concept in itself, I come from kind of that older school world, or I guess I have respect for that old school world of the full
Mhm.
albums and the more
Mhm.
theatrical releases, and how
Mhm.
artists would build a world for their audience to come into. And often, and sometimes it was just something that the labels would kind of mix up, but the great artists would really put together things that were emotional, and we could kind of feel the place they were in or the things that they had been through. through
Mm,
that journey they took us on the album. And so for me in this season, in dealing with the hurt and the confusion, as well as the truth that the Bible states over and over again, that we live inside a war, and that this whole life is one of forging yourself and trying to make inner progress to hopefully be with your creator in peace for eternity. But until then, you are living inside of a war. And I just want to get across with this first album, if you will, this first run of songs, that the war is very real and there's real pain, and it's okay if you feel it. It's
mhm,
true, and you should feel it because it's very real. The devil's fighting for you in your sleep. He can't wait for you to be weak. He's been plotting against you your entire life, and possibly since before you were born, with your family bloodline. And it's something that I really want to become a more open conversation for those that do feel the war and that wonder, like, why does life feel so heavy? Is it me? Am I weird? Am I
mhm,
just negative? Am I just depressed? Most of the time it's more than any of those things because the war is so real.
mhm. Yeah. Well, and I definitely share your pain in that because Gabe, your brother, was such a special man, and I've had the pleasure of spending a fair amount of time with Gabe personally, um, but I often like to say with people that are close to God's heart, sometimes He takes them home early, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I felt that from Gabe. There's been other people like Keith Green and others, right? Like who have set that precedent in
Yeah.
in Christian music. And so I feel like Gabe was one of those people that was very, very dear to God's heart.
He
Um,
was.
yeah. And I'm getting teary because one of my favorite memories of Gabe was we were at the Christian Music Broadcasters Convention in Walt Disney World,
Oh, he loved
and
that place.
and I arranged to have breakfast with Mr. Talkbox,
Okay.
who was also playing for Toby Mac at the time, and so we had um, breakfast at the Polynesian Resort at the cafe upstairs there, and we were having really so Byron, Mr. Talkbox, brought your brother Gabe to breakfast,
Oh,
and
cool.
we were sharing some really great Tonga toast, which is their famous dish there, like French toast with cinnamon and jam,
Uh,
and just having a great time talking to each other. Um, anyway, so I definitely feel that heaviness for you, and I like that you are talking about like how we grapple with that with God, right?
yeah.
Grieving things in life that don't go our way. Um, and I know I felt that as an entrepreneur.
Yep.
I know that Toby Mac, who your brother performed with, and Mr. Talkbox,
Yeah.
uh, felt that with the loss of his son. Um, and so yeah, I'm glad you're talking about that because I think you said in another interview a lot of Christian music can kind of just be roses and sunshine,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
For so much of us, it
Yeah,
doesn't feel like roses and sunshine. You
yeah,
know, even those that don't follow Christ, a lot of them aren't happy. They're not fulfilled. And
uh-huh,
the world is really good at making you feel like it's good at helping you pretend through it. It's
uh-huh,
it's got it's got medication, and it's got drinks and activities that you can almost fake your wholeness through life.
mhm,
But the truth is, to accept God is also to accept the war. And, to accept
yeah,
the blessings is also to accept the pain, and
mhm.
the growth that comes from it.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. So, like, how does this relate to rap music? Because this is harder to do. Like in rap music, it's one thing to be Kendrick Lamar talking about racial oppression or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's another thing to be talking about more personal journeys and struggles. So, like, how does that come
Yeah.
out for you? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing video production for the last 10 years. And
Mm.
growing up, even I always made music growing up, and I thought one day I would score film. I always loved that big
Mm,
cinematic sound. And as I got
mhm,
older, you hear it in movies kind of mixed with EDM, and then you'll hear it in these big scenes mixed with that new popular rap song that's going
mhm,
around. And it's a beautiful I've always just had a huge passion for how much energy is in that type of sound. I've always
mhm,
loved rap. Rap has a way of making you feel like you're unstoppable. There's something about the rhythms, the cadence of the words, the wording themselves,
mm,
and everything about it kind of, it kind of compels you to roll the window down and turn the music up a little louder for some reason,
mhm,
almost like
mhm,
rock in that sense. It gives you a
mhm,
little bit of edge.
mhm,
And to me, I feel two things in life. I feel the pain and the frustration and the confusion of trying to get through this war whole. But I
mhm,
also feel the reality that God tells us in 1 John 5:4, that whatever is born of God has already won the victory. And
mm,
we overcome the world, even in our faith, in just our faith. And the only faith we need is as little as a mustard seed. So a small amount of faith means you are already carrying victory with you. And so I wanted to find a way to mix those feelings together. Because for
mm,
me, coming from video production, it's more about the feeling that is portrayed more than the song structure or the chords being used. I want it to feel like pain and like struggle and like a war, but I also want it to feel like victory. And I feel like rap
mhm,
brings in that victorious, confident, unapologetic kind of vibe to the music.
mm. Okay, got you. Yeah, and I picked up on that a bit as I was listening to some of the tracks from the album. And so who are your biggest influences then? Like who do you
It's
kind
a
of
good,
mash up to make you you?
yeah. Uh, Skrillex has been a huge inspiration
Mm,
ever
okay.
since he came out.
Uh-huh.
Just because I grew up playing guitar, loving rock music,
Mhm.
and I even had a band, a rock band, around the time when Skrillex had a rock band called From First to Last. And we had some friends that they knew his band, they knew my band, and
Mhm.
so it was cool to see someone from that world not only kind of change from the rock to EDM, but he
Yeah.
did it in a way that really changed music. I feel like pop music now takes influence from that kind of dubstep, almost EDM vibes that he brought in. I think he may have been the first DJ artist like himself to
Mhm.
go platinum and to win Grammys and that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
I love his music. His music's cool. I don't love all of it. Some of it's too crazy for me. But one thing I do love is his innovation, and he
Mhm.
came through and brought us new sounds and new rhythms and new ways to use sounds to make rhythms. And so Skrillex has been a huge inspiration, just his innovation.
Mm.
I also love, man, Jay-Z has always been a great artist. I'm sorry, none of these are so far Christian artists, but
That's
uh,
okay.
for me, his lyricism and the way that he can paint a picture is
Mhm.
so important. Um,
Mhm.
and of course, I gotta say Toby, just because he has such a huge sound, and it's
Mhm.
his standard as an artist is extremely high. And
Mhm.
because I know him personally, I know that I've got to just see from the sidelines how he keeps that standard.
Mhm.
And it's few and far between that you see any artist, Christian or mainstream, keep a career that long and
Yeah.
stay relevant that long. Because
Yeah.
when he released Extreme Days, actually, when they released Jesus Freak,
Mhm.
it blew my mind. It blew
Yeah.
my mind. I couldn't believe they were mixing such heavy rock, what it felt like we were listening to with artists like Nirvana. They mixed that with a Christian message, and
Mhm.
then to go on and do Extreme Days, that blew my mind. Coming out of the Christian world, that whole sound and how big it was really blew my mind. And then even up until the last song that he wrote with my brother was "The Goodness." I love
Mm.
that song. It's still a song that I listen to on a regular basis. And I don't know if there's any other artist that has released that kind of relevant music as long as
Mhm.
he has.
Mhm. So let's talk on something a little more deeper too, which is I've seen a couple posts recently on social media where people are saying, you know, there shouldn't even be a Christian music category anymore. So speaking of having, you know, secular influences versus Christian music, and Christian music has always been in its own lane. And of course, I'm putting you in trouble here because
No,
your mom is the
you're
president of
fine.
the Gospel Music Association. But um, anyway, but how do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like that Christian music should be its own lane? Do you feel like artists in Christian music should just be, uh, you know, yeah, I don't know how to even say
I,
it anymore. Like,
I, I,
yeah,
th- I think so because to me,
yeah,
it's almost like movie ratings.
mm-hmm,
It kind of gives us a way for people that don't want to hear certain words or don't want to have certain messages poured into their lives through speakers.
mm-hmm,
They know that they can go to the Christian category and hear
mm-hmm,
something inspirational, uplifting,
mm-hmm,
something that's more based in truth and something that's just generally more clean. So
mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
think just for that reason alone, I think it's really important that it's separated because I know that so many parents are relying on K-Love. I feel like K-Love and Air One. Sorry guys, but I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
radio stations like that have managed to stick around due to the parents needing
mm-hmm,
something to
mm-hmm,
play on the way to school and on the way home from school and to soccer
mm-hmm,
games. It's kind of the only station that any age can listen to.
mm-hmm,
So I think it's good that they're separated. I love that it's blending a lot more. I feel like in the
mm-hmm,
last 2 years, it's almost been some kind of movement where it seems like a lot of big secular people are coming to the Lord. And
mm-hmm.
so I'm excited to see them kind of come over into our industry and in our lane and play under that Christian music title.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like they have a home there? I mean, because like Christian music is known for being what I call the mono genre,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? It
It
sounds
is.
one way.
It
So
does.
if you're more innovative, do we have a home for you
I,
over here?
I, I think so. I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
It's just, I think the kids are bored. They need
mm-hmm,
something new because the audience is always going to change an industry. That's kind
mm-hmm,
of how any industry works, especially of a creative industry.
mm-hmm,
As society shifts, the industry shifts. And so I was just in another interview telling somebody that, when my mom was a music executive, I think I was in sixth grade when I pirated my first MP3. Now,
mm-hmm,
back then, we would just share MP3 files on AOL, and that was pirating because
mm-hmm,
technically it was illegal. We didn't call it pirating back then
yeah,
because we just got AOL and just figured out that we could share files. But
mm-hmm,
uh, back then, I was already starting to become really comfortable with a new technology and a new way of listening to music. And that was
mm-hmm,
years before my mom even saw it as a problem in the industry. I don't think she even
yeah,
knew that MP3s existed when I was in my room. Well, at least in that way, I don't think she even knew that they were coming into the pipeline like that. So
mm-hmm,
I
right,
think there'll always be new innovations. And I think as Christians, even, we have to be ready to innovate and we have to be ready to lead. I think one thing we do really well is consistency, but it also is our fault. When
mm,
everything sounds the same, and when one thing I really don't like is sometimes there'll be a really innovative, amazing Christian new artist, and it doesn't have to be any kind of crazy music. Sometimes it's worship, sometimes it's rock,
mm,
sometimes it's rap. But in the beginning, it's incredible, and it's like nothing you've ever heard. Then they
mm-hmm,
get on the radio, and the songs slowly start to sound more like the radio songs that you've heard, and
mm-hmm,
they're not really innovating anymore, and they're not
mm-hmm.
really the ones making your favorite songs, and you kind of have to move on to the new person that's not that popular that's still innovating because they haven't gotten stuck in the cycle. So yeah, I think there's definitely space over here. Well, there's more space than people think because I don't know if you have kids. I don't, but if you have kids, they are bored. They get tired of the same old, same old. They are itching to see something cool and new and something that's surprising and yeah. So we need innovation. We need them to come over here. We need to create space for them if we aren't, but I think we are.
Okay, so now that we've talked about innovation, Marcel, so let's also talk about let's kind of go back to roots and talk about your family, because again, as I mentioned at the top of the interview, you come from a really incredible family that has deep history in music and Christian music in particular.
Yeah.
So how has that influenced you, and when did you? I mean, like it's kind of funny because I hate it when artist bios always start with I started playing the piano when I was 3 years old.
Right.
You know, like I'm like
Oh,
I
well,
don't care about that. Like,
I got a different story for you
but
than that. Then that's for
but
sure.
but but in some ways, like for you, it matters
Yeah.
because you have just deep history, and your dad was very history making.
Hmm.
And anyway, so let's start. Like, how did you go? Hey, this is part of me. Was it just always with you because you did it as a family? Like, how did that unfold for you?
Yeah, man. The story, Derek, is so much different than I think a lot of people would perceive, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it's such a glorifying story to God and
Mm,
what's really possible, no matter the pit that we find ourselves in.
mm-hmm.
And so my mom actually met my dad. I'm going to go back a little early. I'm going to go back
Okay,
pretty
yeah,
early.
like
Just so
pre
people can,
Marcel, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
pre me even.
yeah.
My parents met when my mom was 19. My dad was singing for Santana at the time.
Oh,
So
right.
yes, so it's a beautiful story where he passes her on the street, going the opposite direction, turns
Hmm.
around,
Yeah.
spits some game, and invites her to the Santana show, right? That was
Wow.
either that night or the next night, something like that. And so that was their first date, a real, so she really got swept off her feet, meeting this
Hmm.
guy, driving down the road in San Francisco. And next thing you know, she's at the Santana concert and this guy's the lead singer. So, um, it was not long after that time. They got married very early on, and then not not long after that, he went into his Christian career. He had found the Lord.
Hmm.
Carlos was Buddhist at the time, I believe,
Hmm.
and so they kind of had odds there, and he left to start his solo career. And eventually, years later, they had my brother. Then they had me, and my dad kind of lost his way, and and so there was a divorce that happened, and um, my mom felt the need to separate. And so she took the first job she could. I believe I mentioned it before, answering phones as a receptionist at a small label here in Tennessee, where the only reason she came here is because she knew some people that had an opportunity and a path for her to start her life over. Because getting married at
Hmm.
19, and then they got divorced 13, 14 years later, and
Mm.
she has just been married her whole adult life. She went from high school to marriage, swept off her feet. Now she's just on the road.
Yeah.
Dad starts this incredible career as, kind of one of the first CCM artists, even,
Yes.
definitely,
Right.
definitely probably the first black CCM artist. But,
Yes. Exactly.
but he
Yep.
was really in the beginning of, see, there wasn't even Carmen yet. So,
Right. Right. Yeah. CCM music was new. Like, he was part of like the first wave. Right. Like,
yeah.
prior to that, I mean, what most people don't understand Christian music history is you always had like gospel music, right?
Hmm.
Like, coming out of like literally slavery, that kind of stuff. Then you also had kind of like they call them gospel quartets, which was like
Like,
almost like barbershop kind of
yes.
style, right?
Yep.
And then that blended with church music, and then you kind of had these two different streams for many years.
Yeah.
And then you had rebels like Ray Charles,
Yeah.
right? And like guys like him, right, who kind of like did gospel and then he didn't, and then and then you had the Jesus movement in the
Yeah.
60s. And the
Yeah.
Jesus movement was incorporating kind of rock music with Christian faith. And then that led to the rise
Yeah.
of what we now call contemporary Christian music. And your dad, probably being part of Santana at the time, right?
Yep.
Like, was influenced by that and became really the first black contemporary Christian music artist. So like the contemporary Christian music system, they were defining it,
Yeah,
right? He
man.
was
It is so
defining it.
nuts. It is
Yeah.
so nuts. And that Jesus movement, my mom still talks about the Jesus movement. So I
Yeah.
think you're spot on. Like I don't know for sure, but I think it happened right around that time when he came out of
Yes.
Santana. And
Mm.
maybe the Jesus movement swept him up because I know that a lot of that was going on in San Francisco at the time with
Yeah.
the hippie
Right.
movement. So,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
uh, so yeah, so eventually they get divorced, and and he my dad continues to um kind of self-destruct in certain ways, and his career is very up and down.
Mhm.
Ultimately, more down than up. Um,
Mhm.
but my mom takes that job in Nashville at, I think it was Star Song, and
Okay. Yeah.
eventually they and she just tried to be a real faithful steward of the two boys. Now she's looking after
Mhm.
two boys
Mhm.
and trying to make it work. And man, eventually they asked her. They thought that she would be a good A&R, and they asked her if she would come into an A&R role, and she really didn't want to. She was super reluctant. She
Mhm.
she didn't see herself as anything more than a mom trying to make it work.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, my mom did not see it as anything more than her trying to make it work with these two boys. And and so, and it was a series of those kind of elevations in her life. As she
Mhm.
kept stewarding the positions that God put her in, stewarding them well, she kept being offered these new opportunities, and almost pulled into them, because it was a while. I think it was, from there she went to, I think, executive director of another label,
Mhm.
and then general manager of Integrity. And I don't think it was until the Integrity move, when I was like a teenager. I was 3 when they got divorced. And I don't think it was until I was a teenager that I actually saw her confidently walk into a promotion. Up until then, it was always like, oh, they want me to do this, and I really don't want to, and I really don't think I'm qualified, and I really don't think I'm capable. But they keep
Mhm.
telling me that I'm the person they need to do it. And she would step into it, and God would bless her with another opportunity. So I wanted to tell that story because that is one of the things I learned from my family early on, and that I
Mhm.
still learn from in her character, is her obedience. I got to see what disobedience and obedience do.
Mm.
Through my dad's life, I remember going to music stores, and I love my dad, and I feel like I'm putting him on blast right now. But at the same time, my story, I think I love to be honest about my story, because I feel like it helps others who may be
Yeah.
walking through the same thing, whether it be my
Mhm.
personal stories of the alcoholism and the debauchery that I've drugged myself through to finally find the Lord,
Mhm.
or my family. And my family's been a huge inspiration to me, just in seeing my mom's obedience, because she was never someone who had big dreams for herself. She was never
Mhm.
someone who would call herself a leader, who saw herself as someone who would guide a team, even, let alone an industry. And to see obedience is what I believe prompted God to keep
Mm.
pulling her forward, and keep pulling her up into the position that she's in now, as the president of the Gospel Music Association. And to see her put a museum in the middle of downtown Nashville last year was insane. So if you're ever in
Mhm.
Nashville, go by the Christian and Gospel Music Museum. It is something cool, and it's the only one in the world so far.
Mhm.
Um, but also in that family, I learned the creativity. Everybody was operating in purpose. My dad, as confused as he was throughout those years, was still trying to walk in his calling of playing music and being the front man and the talent that he is. My mom was working in the Christian music industry, of course, building up other artists. And then my brother
Mhm.
goes on the road with Toby when he's 10 and I'm 5. So one huge leg up and one huge advantage I feel like I just had was being born in a home that lived off purpose and thrived off purpose. And so for me, that's always been uh, my North Star, is purpose over financial freedom uh, or title. I want to live my life in purpose, because I've seen what purpose can do for your surroundings and for the world. I look at my dad's early career, and he really shifted music. And to see what my mom has done with Natalie Grant, and even the early artists Sierra and Phillips Craig and
Yeah.
Dean, and then with Israel, that
Mm.
it changed people's lives.
Mhm.
And I feel like God has rewarded her with peace and wisdom, and something that money can't buy. Many things that money can't buy. And so it's always been, so being raised in that family has always been creativity and purpose. And fortunately, uh, I from an early age, I was able to spread my wings in creativity, just because my parents would give me the opportunity.
Yeah, right. Well, and also, so what did they train you on, or what did you pick as
Yeah.
like the path forward for like either an instrument or performing or whatever?
The beginning was guitar, man. I was
Okay.
obsessed with Jimi Hendrix as a kid.
Not
Uh,
Santana?
uh,
Uh,
it
yeah.
took me a while to even figure out what Santana was, but man, as a kid, I was obsessed with Jimi Hendrix. And
Yeah.
so I think it was my sixth birthday. My dad got
Uh-huh.
me a red Strat, you
Uh-huh.
know, that
Yeah.
that just like Jimmy's,
Yeah.
and I fell in love, man. So at six, I started on guitar,
Yeah.
and I would just try to play every song I could. Come home from
Uh-huh.
school, I couldn't wait to get off the bus and just
Uh-huh.
throw those headphones on and turn the amp up and see if I could
Uh-huh.
learn a new
Yeah.
verse or a new chorus or a whole new song. Once I got good enough. Uh, and yeah, that was the beginning, man.
I need to introduce you to a guy named Ace Parker. He's a good
Okay.
friend of mine. Ace was the band leader for a bunch of like several like 90s boy bands.
No
And
way.
yeah, and he was a huge Jimi Hendrix fan. I mean, he shreds just like Jimmy. Like he probably
Dang.
has all the solos memorized and stuff. But anyway, so shout out to Ace. If you're watching this, Ace, I got to send this interview to you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah,
guys
man.
need to, you guys just need to meet because like
Absolutely.
he's like Jimi Hendrix Jr. Like man, yeah, and so he's
It all started with the guitar, and I honestly I still suck at the guitar in my opinion. But
yeah.
I went on. I think at 10 I started learning the drums and then the keyboard when I was 13. So I definitely became a jack of all trades and
Okay,
a
yeah.
master of no instrument. That is for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, got you. So
And
now do you?
for those that don't know,
Yeah,
the full phrase "jack of all trades but a master of none"
yeah.
is a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
Oh, okay,
No
gotcha.
one ever
That's
says
good.
the full phrase. So I feel like
Uh-huh.
it makes people assume that being a master at one thing is the optimal thing to do.
Yeah.
When in this day and age, especially, I encourage people
Yes,
to become a master in as many things as you can and get your hands in and
that's
learning
true.
as many things as you can.
Yeah. Well, even as an artist, right? Like you have to be knowledge of the business now, whereas
Oh my
before
gosh.
managers, things like that would protect you. Like now it's like, no, you need to know how to post on social media
Yeah.
5 times a day.
Which means you need to know how to work with a videographer or shoot yourself
Yeah,
or
right,
edit
exactly.
yourself or
Yeah.
color grade yourself or do animations. Yeah, man,
Yeah,
it's a lot.
exactly.
And,
Yeah.
obviously I knew a good bit about the industry, but coming into it as an artist, man, in this day and age, there's a lot of bases to
It's a whole
cover.
new yeah, it's a whole new ball game now. I think we've all been learning that the hard way. And so actually that leads me to the next topic that we wanted to get to was just AI in music too. So
Yeah.
are you using AI? Well, okay, before I even ask that
Yeah.
question, because I need to finish this. So do you write and produce your own music, or are you working with a producer? How do you, what's your flow?
Yeah. I do everything honestly in this very room.
Okay, awesome. That's
Yes, sir.
amazing. And that's amazing because your sound is very big. You have a very big sound,
Thank you.
right? Very, very like wall of sound. I mean, we talked about your influences being Skrillex and Jay-Z.
Yeah.
I hear some NF influence in there. I
Yeah.
hate to
Oh, I
say it.
love
Yeah.
it, man. I
Yeah.
love
So,
it,
so if
bro.
you're an NF fan, you're going to like, oh, Marcel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's that kind of, yeah, I call it kind of wall of sound with
Yeah.
rap on it, right?
Yep. Yes, man. All the emotions in one.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about AI and music. And are you leveraging it for creating music, either for writing or doing
Yeah,
parts or anything? So how do you
man.
leverage it?
I love the music process, and I don't want to spoil it by making it too much
Mm-hmm.
easier because it's
Mm-hmm.
hard, man. It is hard,
Yeah.
but I do feel like doing things yourself creates an authenticity and a um, an innovation that only humans can really bring. And so, no, I don't use it for the music. I have a lot of friends who keep telling me, man, it's good just use it for a demo or just try this or just try that.
Yeah.
But I can't bring myself to do it because
Hmm.
I want it. I like that battle of self expression. Like I have
Hmm.
something in my heart. Like I said, I'm not a master at any instrument. So I fumble around all of them and try to get that wall of sound that feels
Hmm.
like what's internal. And
Hmm. Hmm.
I feel like if I were to type something in and let the computer do that once, I don't
Yeah.
want to get used to that instant gratification.
Right, right. Well, and I'm a purist that way too. I kind of think like, you know, I don't know if I was kind of reviving what I was doing with my label, um, I would want it to be 100% pure human, and have
Yeah,
that be a distinctive for me.
yeah,
And I like to encourage artists to like, no, if you're going to do this, like, I kind of feel like I get the interactivity and the playfulness of like
yep,
allowing fans to like interact with your music and do remixes and do their own versions and, all that. I love the promise of that and what that means for fandom. But like, I feel like the artistry of what music is,
yeah.
right, needs to be distinctly human,
It
you know?
does. And there's
Yeah.
something to it. And for anyone, I don't want to discourage people that are making AI music out there because I feel like I don't have a problem with it. I
Hmm.
think some of it's super dope. I mean, a lot
Hmm.
of it is well made. It sounds great,
Hmm.
but it will give you like the best version of something you've already heard.
Hmm.
And, artistry is that what you want out of your art? It's
Hmm.
different for everybody. Some people are
Yeah.
just have a dream of I've always wanted to sound like that artist, so that's fine. But I will say I have some AI songs on a couple of my playlists that I was like, oh yeah, this is great. I'm gonna totally listen to that all the time, and
Yeah.
I'll go back to it every once in a while. But for some reason, I always go back to the real artist on those same playlists, and
Hmm.
the songs are good, but it's like there's something more about artistry and the world that we talked about that an
Hmm.
artist builds that is really something different, and that's what compels people, I think, to become emotionally attached to an artist is the
Yes,
journey of an
exactly.
artist, the story, the world they build, and even if it's a completely fictitious world like a
Yeah.
Britney Spears, it's
Yeah.
still something that connects with humanity. It's something that
Yeah.
plays off of humanity.
Yeah.
It's something to connect with. And so, I would just say to artists out there who think, oh yeah, AI is the future of music. It, AI is definitely the future
Mm.
in one way or the other in many different ways. But remember that, the connection and think about how you connect with certain films or you connect with certain painters or DJs or music you like, it's generally something personal that you're connecting with and not just the music. Like
Hmm.
Drake is incredible and his music would have been incredible if it would have been made by AI, but
Hmm.
we love Drake. It's something, and I don't even know him. And I don't
Yeah.
think he presents
Right.
him as a person. So I
Yeah.
don't look at what he presents and think I know him. But what
Hmm.
I do feel from him is something very human. It's
Hmm.
extremely human. It feels like I'm listening to someone's story play out. Same with Kanye West. You go through
Hmm.
those albums, you're listening to a man's life play out.
Yeah.
And the
Right.
music is great, but you're
Yeah.
actually hearing and you're getting more than just the music. And one last thing I'll say about that human connection is another thing that we can see that really proves this is, Joe Rogan came along and he's the most watched, the most streamed. And then
Yeah.
these new live streamers came along and they're
Mm.
the most watched, the most streamed. The Twitch video game streamers, the iShow Speeds, the Kai Sinets, the
Mhm.
Drewskis, people, the numbers are proving people
Yeah.
want to see real life.
Yeah.
At the pinnacle of entertainment, the people that are at the pinnacle, all of their brands are real life. And
Mm.
even more so real than ever because they're live streaming for hours, tens of hours. Sometimes they're live streaming for days on end. It's crazy and breaking records on viewership because
Hmm.
people are so much more interested in seeing the authentic life.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's good. I totally agree. And that's, I think, what makes the magic when artists post on their own social media versus having somebody else do it for them,
That's
right?
true.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
seeing the real person And
Yeah,
yeah, you feel more compelled to engage with the artist when you feel that, right?
you do totally.
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
and I'd use AI for honestly everything else.
Yeah.
For my business,
Yeah.
for thinking through ideas about
Hmm.
projects,
Hmm.
my website, the
Hmm.
imagery, the videos. I definitely use it, and it has taken hours off of my workload, man. For
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
anyone who's on the fence about AI, or I mean, it's definitely the future. It's more of the future than you could imagine, and it will only benefit you to at least get more comfortable with it. So I always
Hmm.
encourage people, like, just have ChatGPT clean up an email for you, or talk to it about an idea you're having. Just do something little. If you're having a little bit of trouble getting into it, just do something small, and
Yeah.
you'll very quickly start seeing the benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. So, okay. So tell us where we can find you, like on what social media handles
Yes.
and your
So
website.
IamAbleMusic.com, as well as I Am Able Music everywhere on social media at I Am Able Music. So definitely stay tuned to that. I Am Able on all streaming platforms, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, anywhere you can find music. You'll be able to find High this Friday. I don't know when this is coming out, but High will be out on July 31st, 2026.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for being on the Make a Fun Island podcast, Marcel, and we'll have you back at some point.
Thank you, Derek. I look forward to it.